Dhamma Talks by Mogok Sayadaw, the 11th of December 1961. Searching for the source. The Buddha under the Bodhi tree investigated the source of aging and death of the khandha. Living beings suffer a lot because of aging and death. It happens due to birth. So these are the personal properties. They are complaining as I am old now and very soon I shall die. These complaining are without any grace and blessing. Because of birth people are getting old, sick and death and crying. From here I have to remind you. Don't pray for any life. If not, these are the things you want, i.e., aging, sickness and death. You are afraid of aging, sickness and death, but prefer birth, jati. It's too crazy. You do like it blindly. Nothing is worse than not knowing the truth. It becomes clear that only by knowing the truth, samsara will be cut off. Not knowing the truth is ignorance. Therefore ignorance is asking you to pray for birth. Even dukkha can be got without asking. Is it not so extreme by asking for it? It already existed even it was not taught by the Buddha. Ignorance is unwholesome Dhamma. This is going in front of the Buddha image and doing unwholesome thing. People have ignorance without any shame at all. They think by asking and will get it. It's like praying for the murderer. Bodily and verbal actions are more frightening than birth. With them you get birth. Today I'll talk about the D.A. of the reverse order, patiloma. This is searching for the source of dukkha. We can talk about the prosperity of life, but don't know the cessation of life. Isn't teacher important? Isn't life really good? So correct yourselves. You still have time to correct. Your parents and grandparents were already died and couldn't do anything for them. Feeling is more frightening than craving, because of it tanha arises. A poor man wants to be rich. A rich man wants to be richer. Feeling causes craving to arise. Middle-class people are also the same. Living beings are not fear of feeling. Tanha will not arise without it because tanha gets dukkha sakha. But a person who fears of richness is very rare indeed. Is the feeling dharma for preference or fearful one? Pleasant feeling is the most popular one. Is there anyone giving retirement by tanha? It blindly orders you whatever it wants. Craving governs on all beings. Now you find out your leader. It governs the 31 realms of existence. He is ordering you as much as he can and at last gives you dukkha sakha. Is there anyone complaining for tanha? Even we take it as a prestige. It comes first as soon as in the morning but not inside knowledge. You have to observe the impermanence of feeling. Investigate backwardly and at last you find the culprit of aging and death, which is ignorance. If ignorance falling away, the whole will fall away. There are 10 fetters, samyojana, ignorance is one of them. So, after becoming an arahant D.A. process totally cut off. In the whole samsara living beings are living around with samadaya and dukkha. Turning around with darkness and blackness, ignorance and tanha are darkness and dukkha, khandha is blackness. Therefore the Buddha couldn't enter these things to help people. Our eyes were never gaining the light. It means you never have been had the light of the path. You can contemplate with any one of the 4 satipatthana which you prefer. Seeing impermanence is ignorance, avidya, or knowledge, vidya. It's knowledge, then. Sir. Therefore by seeing impermanence is making ignorance ceases. When ignorance ceases, and tanha also ceases. Now, you catch the culprit and also know how to kill him. So the beginning of samsara is ignorance and craving. Samsara will end only without the ignorance. With the ending of the impermanence and it will end. Dhamma Talks by Mogok Sayadaw, the 15th of December 1961. The 3 knowledges in the Suttas. Your body is conditioned aggregate, sankhara khandha. And after the conditions, sankhara, finish and it ceases. Before they finish we can listen talks, eating, selling and buying. We can die because of kama. If not conditioning by temperature, Utu, or not connecting with it, or it finishes, will also die. One also will die when next mind does not arise after this mind moment. One must die if one of these four nutriments, kama, past kama, mind, chitta, temperature, utu, and foods, ahara, ceases. Before death they're supporting for it. Do you have the chance for relaxing? If foods not produce, the food elements also die. So we must eat foods, and we will die if the group of form, rupa kalapa, do not develop. It's like the simile of a wooden doll, a puppet, with the four strings. It will perish if one of them going wrong. Can you say the body is your own and belongs to you? It's conditioned body. It suffers according to their conditioning. From the side of the mind phenomena, they arise by sense objects and sense doors. Therefore mind and body are conditioned aggregates, sankhara khandha, and will end up with impermanence. So we had never had a stable life. If can't get out from conditions, and we are just ready for death. By coming out from them will arrive to unconditioned nibbana. Have to contemplate a lot of the impermanence of conditioned phenomena, sankhara anicca. Arising is sankhara and vanishing is anicca. One's own khandha is these two. You are conditioning and vanishing. If you discern this and get the knowledge of as it really is, yathabhuta nana. Have to continue to contemplate its disenchantment. Seeing a lot of impermanence become disenchantment. For example, if a mother every time gives birth and the baby dies, does she have any desire for giving birth again? Yathabhuta nana becomes mature and develops to the knowledge of disenchantment. In the beginning, it needs to discern sankhara and anicca in the body. In the body it doesn't have any one of the hand, feet, hair, etc., but only has impermanence. You get the yathabhuta nana if you know this. It is developing into the knowledge of disenchantment at the time when you don't want to see impermanence. The mind becomes disenchanted with the process by contemplation. A lot of anicca, such as you become disenchanted with it if you eat lemons continuously. Khandhas are always anicca, only the mind changed. If you develop to this point, and I want to remind you, beware for one thing. Your mind doesn't want to continue the practice. Don't get up and go away. Also don't move from your place. Continue to contemplate with patience. Let the knowledge develop to until not wanting it. If you contemplate patiently on disenchantment and it develops into the knowledge of not wanting it, surely it will develop. It's a natural process. The knowledge of not wanting is path knowledge. In anywhere of the Pali Suttas the Buddha described the development with these three knowledges. If you discern impermanence, both of your eyes are gaining light. Your craziness and blindness is gone. Craving reduces with the becoming of disenchantment. The knowledge of not wanting will come if you become more and more disenchanted. At that time impermanences disappear. That is dukkha sakka disappearing, because impermanence itself is dukkha sakka. Dukkha nirodho nibbanam. With the ending of impermanence of dukkha and nibbana arises. Contemplate any one of them you prefer, i.e., one of the four satipatthana. The mind ends if the form, rupa, ends. The form ends if the mind ends. They are arising together and vanishing together. At the time of seeing the ending, there rises up to the three knowledges of path, fruit and reviewing knowledges, magga, phala and pakavekkhana nanas, respectively. Continued the Maha Parinibbana Sutta, at the Nadaka village, Ven. Ananda asked the Buddha whereabouts some of the lay disciples' destinations after passing away. This was on the subject of Dhamma mirror. A person knows him himself as never being going to fall into hells again, and also never becoming again as animals and hungry ghosts after entering the stream. He do know it that he is free from the dangers of uncertainty. This is one of the terrible and frightening situations of the dangers of uncertainty. A person whose dukkha has ceased knows himself. A very strong respect and veneration of mind arises to the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha. With moral precepts, sila, taking the life of beings and stealing things never arise. Wanting to take intoxicants never arise. It happens naturally. A person realizes the path, knowledge knows it by himself. These are the mirror of the Dhammas, so knowing by oneself. These are the checklists of a Sotapanna. 1. Will never fall into the 4 planes of misery. 2. Unshakable faith and respect to the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha. 3. Stable in the 5 precepts, Panca Sila, in his whole life. Will never break it by knowingly. 4. By taking birth can never be born in these 6 places. The 4 planes of misery. The place where the Buddha's teaching can't reach, born into a family with wrong views. After becoming a Sotapanna, what should one have to do? Don't worry, when the time comes, it will continue. It will be encouraged by the already gained path and fruit knowledges. Only this path knowledge is important, i.e., Sotapatti Magga. The higher levels of path knowledges are not important. Where are you going after death if you don't get this path knowledge yet? You have to practice for making the sure decision of that I will never fall into the planes of misery if I die. Dhamma Talks by Mogok Sayadaw, the 16th of December 1961. The Doctrine of the Buddha. You have to note that listening to the Dhamma talks knows what should have, and what should not have in the Khanda. What Dhamma should have is right view and should not have is wrong view. These two are very important. It's important to develop a lot of Dhamma which should be had and abandon which should not be had. This body comes under aging, sickness and death is the cause of the Dhamma which should not be had. If you have the Dhamma which should be had and aging, sickness and death will stop. Don't know these things and in the samsara, we were living with aging, sickness and death as our companions. In the Khanda only Sankhara and Anicca exist, conditioned phenomena are impermanent or suffering. Sabbe Dhamma Anatta, all Dhammas, phenomena, including Nibbana, are not self. In the Khanda only these things exist. In short, only exist as the arising and passing away of phenomena. Arising and vanishing, etc., with only these things exist. People have wrong views and take impermanence and making him as this is me, this is him, this is man and this is woman. These things arise because of the Dhamma shouldn't be had is existing. Wrong view is wrong knowing. Even without the Buddha taught about it, only Anicca, Dukkha and Anatta exist. If he taught him also these things exist. Even without listening talks and the Dhamma which should not have always exists. Following behind with wrong views which we have is clinging to wrong view, Dittupadana. Later, follow with the action, Kamma, of governing by wrong view. Kamma Pakaya Jati, and then following with Dukkha Sakka, birth. The power of not listening talks is very bad indeed. By the way, I have to remind you. Only by listening on aggregates, Khanda, sense spaces, Ayatana, element, Dhatu, truth, Sakka, and wrong view will fall away. With Dana, Sila, and Samatha practices and wrong views will not fall away. For example, I do it, and I get it, i.e., on Dana. The identity view, Sakkaya Ditthi, of Dhamma which should not be had comes in. Only by listening emptiness Dhamma, Sunnata, connection with Khanda, Ayatana is on the right path. Empty of person or being, its emptiness, Sunnata. Is it still has any person or being if talking on feeling? Therefore talking on Khanda is emptiness. Talking on Ayatana, Dhatu, Sakka and D.A. is emptiness. Only by listening to these kinds of talk that Ditthi will fall away. As an example, for my good fortune, I must make merits. It's not Sunnata Dhamma and Ditthi does not fall away. By undertaking Sila, I'll have a long life, this only Ditthi will arise. If not listening on Khanda, Ayatana, D.A. and wrong view never fall away. And never free from the 4 planes of misery. So, Sunnata Dhamma is very important. By listening to the emptying of me and mind Dharma will arrive to Sunnata. Living beings are descending from blissful to painful existences, if not listening to the Sunnata Dharma. In the Anguttara Nikaya, the Buddha said that without listening to the Sunnata Dharma wrong view arose. With the Suttanta method, discourses, using the person and being in the teachings are all right, but not leading to emptiness. It needs to add something to them. So, at last the Buddha ended it up with truth, Sakka. This was for leading to Sunnata. With wrong view never leads to Nibbana, and can't realize path and fruition knowledges. Here Sayadaw mentioned as in the past monks were giving talks from the Sutta discourses, and at the end finished their talks with reciting the Abhidhamma. These were demolishing ditthi. He continued to explain the Buddha's way of gradual teachings. Is there any person or being including in the Dukkha Sakka, Samadaya Sakka, Nirodha Sakka and Magga Sakka? At the time when the mind was absent from Kilesa and taught about Sunnata Dhamma and became Sotapanna, Arahant respectively. The Buddha taught Sunnata Dhamma at the end was his way of teaching. These last points are good for contemplation. Because during the talk when the mind was absent from Kilesa meant overcame the hindrances. And then the Buddha continued to talk about Sunnata Dhamma. At the same time the listeners contemplated their khandhas. In this way we can also help the dying person. Sayadaw continued to talk about the monks from Devadaha wanted to go to the western province. From SN.22.2 Devadahasatam, the Khandha Vagga Samyutta. Then Sariputta said to the monks, the people in these places will ask you these two questions. What is the Buddha's doctrine? And what the Buddha teaches very often. For a Buddhist it's important to know what the Buddha's doctrine is. It even happens to make the accusation to the Buddha if you don't know and answering in uncertainty, e.g., some Buddhists talk about that the enlightened bodhisattvas, arahants still have kilesa, etc. Misinterpreting his teachings in these ways. The Buddha's doctrine is removal of desire and lust, chanda raga. He always taught the removal of greed, lobha, without regarding to any person. Look at the D.A. process chart. He taught for not followed by tanha, upadana and kama, the doctrine of not connection from section 2 to section 3, i.e., from Vinanam. Vedana to tanha. Kama. Therefore every day I teach you to observe for not connect sek. 2 and sek. 3. You do not follow the Buddha's doctrine if you are connecting them. You have to decide for yourself. Contemplate with insight, vipassana, to sek. 2 and do not connect with sek. 3. In regard to, what is the removal of desire and lust? For the removal of the desire on the 5 khandhas, what will happen if not remove it? When the khandha is perished and followed by sorrow, lamentation, etc. To someone attaches to the 5 khandha. It will turn towards avidya pakaya sankhara, ignorance conditions volitional formation. Or D.A. process appears again from the end to the beginning, i.e., from sek. 4 to go back sek. 1 again. In the present sorrow, lamentation, etc., arise and it continues to birth again in the future. In this present life you have to cry and after death will fall into the plane of misery. You will encounter these things if you attach to your and other khandhas. It becomes affection, desire, lust, to him, her if you are seeing someone. Is this the doctrine of the Buddha? This is the doctrine of going to the apaya, planes of misery. Tell me the benefit of non-desire. Contemplate the impermanence of the affectionate Dharma and become non-desire of them. Then not continue from sek. 2 to sek. 3. And also is not arriving to sek. 4 and instead to nibbana. At the end of sek. 2 is nibbana, i.e., the ending of the khandha. The ending of the khandha is nibbana. The ending of craving, tanha, is nibbana. It's the ending of crying, birth, aging and death. The Buddha taught to the future generations to know the faults of desire, lust, craving, greed, attachment, and the benefits of non-desire. Dhamma Talks by Mogok Sayadaw, the 17th of December 1961. Unwise attention and sufferings. The Buddha taught that with wise attention, yoniso, would arrive to nibbana. Sabbe sankhara anicca, as all conditioned phenomena are impermanent, with contemplation of form, rupa, feeling, vedana, etc. And will see all of them are impermanent. Close your eyes and observe the khandha with knowledge, nana, and will see the feelings are arising here and vanishing here. All are impermanent, anicca. Minds are also in the same way and you can't control of them. Someone with wise attention doesn't find me or him and only find impermanence. Seeing the vanishing phenomena is seeing anicca. With unwise attention, my mind, I am feeling good, I am in pain, etc. Making the feeling, vedana, as, I see it, is neutral feeling and making it as, I, is wrong view. From behind it will follow clinging with wrong view, ditthupadana. And also follow with action, kamma pakaya jati, action conditions birth. The fault of unwise attention is even leading to the planes of misery. The fault of unwise attention is very great indeed. We are taking impermanence, dukkha, not self as sons and daughters that become worry and crying follow with sorrow, lamentation, etc. Why does it happen? Because of not approaching a good teacher and not listening to the noble teaching. Unwise attention hinders path and fruition knowledges. Sayadaw mentioned some of the problems encounter in daily life by unwise attention. Therefore you have to note it as a very important dharma. Smile and grimace arise by unwise attention. Hungry ghost and hell exist by unwise attention. Taints, asava, send beings to the planes of misery, human beings, celestial beings and Brahma gods. Sent by asava, whatever planes you arrive, it only gets aging, sickness and death. With unwise attention taking the sensual planes as will give us happiness and arriving there. So with unwise attention taints arise. Caused by the taints and beings arrive to different planes of existence. Beings arrive to whichever planes only get aging, sickness and death. See the Sayadaw's whole circle chart of D.A. process. The axle is representing the taints. The four spokes are actions caused by the taints. The outermost iron wheel is representing aging and death. People praying for any plane of existence are not knowing the truth. Not knowing is taint of ignorance, avijjasava. The desire for asking is taint of sensuality, kammasava. Planes of jhanic existence are taint of becoming, bhavasava. I want to be there is taint of wrong view, ditthasava. Beings are taking rebirths according to the turning of the axle of taints. Turning up and down and to all sides are aging and death. All the taints are coming from unwise attention and ending up in dukkha sakha. With unwise attention and kilesa arises. Beings are doing actions with kilesa. They encounter aging, sickness and death with actions and arriving to the planes of existence. Axle of taints is broken down and ends the problems with wise attention. Don't follow the paths of smile and grimace. It can't be free from aging and death. Noble beings, Aryas, can smile because they are free from aging and death. They don't have anything for the grimace and only have samvega for other living beings because they had direct experience of dukkha sakha and the taste of nibbana. Because of unwise attention beings are wandering among the planes of existence. In the Samyutta Nikaya, Khandavagga, Ven. Mahakotita asked Ven. Sariputta, someone has sila and what should he do? The answer was, he should have wise attention. Therefore whatever is arising and contemplate its impermanence and no taints arise. Contemplate the five khandhas as impermanent, suffering, disease, a tumor, a dart, misery, affliction, alien, disintegrating, empty and non-self, 11 ways. By contemplating of impermanence and becomes wise attention. Impermanence is anicca and the seeing is magga. Therefore without the ignorance, wrong views, craving for becoming, bhavatana, and the four taints, asavas, cease. The axle of the taints is broken down. Without the spokes and planes of existence, free from aging, sickness and death. In sitting meditation, if discerning impermanence and note it as I have right attention. By seeing impermanence and all the 10 ways of contemplation are including in it. Sayadaw mentioned 10 ways but in the sutta mentioned 11 ways. He said lay people no need to know all of them. The path knowledge is like a knife. It's breaking down the axle of the taint. Except vipassana there is no other refuge. Except discerning impermanence no one will save you. No Buddhas, no Bodhisattvas and no gods act as a savior. Nowadays a lot of Buddhists rely on outside powers and becoming like other faiths. Dhamma talks by Mogok Sayadaw, the 18th of December 1961. Craving overrules actions. You were sent by craving to this human world. You may ask, isn't it because of good karma becoming human being? Isn't it sent by karma? Don't take it in this way. Craving, tanha, overrules on action, karma. Tanha right pointing arrow upadana right pointing arrow karma right pointing arrow jati, craving conditions clinging, clinging conditions action, action conditions birth. Actions are doing things with the instruction of craving. Take them as like the house owner and the carpenter. According to the house owner's desire and the carpenter has to build the house. You all are carrying away by the tanha water. Dana is not the main point and I am giving you the source of the answer. Wherever you are arriving and attaching to the khandha there. On the way of carrying away in the tanha water, you grasp and hold on to the things which are unreliable. I.e., family members and wealth, etc. You don't know yourself of holding on to the stable or unstable things. In this way and you are getting old. They are like the trees on the edge of the river bank and unstable whatever things you hold on to. The edge of the river banks are eroded by water and the roots of the trees are exposed. When it falls on you and you have to cry for it. In the round of existences, how many parents, sons and daughters we had already before. But do you have any thought arising as I'll never grasp and rely on them again? The Buddha taught this Nadi Sutta, from the Khandhasamyutta, SN.22.93 Nadasuttam. With dissatisfaction, you get hold on them and it falls on oneself and sink. Khandha is impermanent, dukkha and not self phenomena and so whatever khandha you are grasping will suffer. You don't know what to do if you don't have something to cling on to. You understand the knowledge of not self if you know it's unstable. Now you are suffered by the pulling of the self-knowledge. Not grasping on things before you are a floater. After the grasping and becomes a sinker. Which one do you like? When you are suffered and blame it on karma as unfortunate. Isn't it true? You are holding on to them by clinging to sense pleasures and wrong views, kamupadana and dittupadana. The clinging objects of mind and body are impermanent, so you have to shed tears. The Buddha taught anicca forgetting the path and the fruition knowledges. But when things are showing anicca, you all shed tears. You get the insight knowledge if you know anicca. These things happen because you don't rely on things which should be relied on, and instead rely on things which shouldn't be. So, don't rely on one's own and others' khandhas. Crying is not the source. The source is grasping or holding on to. Karma also ceases if only clinging ceases. Upadana nirodho nibbānam, cessation of clinging is nibbāna. In this sutta the Buddha taught mainly on clinging. The floater gets the raft, Magan raft, if he may contemplate its anicca while thinking arises for grasping. The Buddha gave us 3 cups of impermanence, suffering and not self-medicines. In the world the real existence is these 3 cups of medicines. The medicines you like are none of them here. You like the permanent, happiness, self-medicines. In the past you always stuck with the medicines you like and missed many Buddhas had arisen. You didn't like the Buddha's medicines and never drank it before. Therefore it's still very difficult to save beings if the Buddha had arisen. You should never rely on permanent, happiness and self, nikka, sukha and atta. You get the Magan raft, path factors raft, if you know not self as not self. It's you yourself making the axle of the taints and turning around it. And then die in the 31 realms of existence. With the wrong grasping and taints arise. This talk is connecting with the previous talk. All the taints and realms of existence are making by oneself. So, a process is one's own process. Have to contemplate one's and others' khandhas as not self. We are constructing spokes of kamma on the axle of the taints. From the 6 senses doors construct the spokes of kamma. You also can't make the spokes if you don't make the axle. Without the spokes, the outermost wheel of aging, sickness and death can't exist. Therefore, for not grasping contemplate impermanence of whatever arises from the 6 senses doors. Dharma Talks by Mogok Sayadaw, the 22nd of February 1962. Conditioned and unconditioned. There are 2 ultimate realities, conditioned and unconditioned dharmas. The impermanence of mind and body process, and the cessation of mind and body process, it is Nibbana. It's at the entrance of Nibbana if you can find out the conditioned ultimate real phenomena, Sankhata Paramatta Dharma. At the ending of Sankhata Paramatta Dharma is the real existence of Nibbana, which is no conditions at all. You get the knowledge of things as realia, yathabhuta nana, if you discover the Sankhata Paramatta Dharma. First, strip away the concepts will discover the Sankhata Paramatta Dharma. Combine the impermanence of the conditioned objects, i.e., the 5 khandhas, with the knowledges are called the processes of the knowledge. It can't arrange by oneself. These arrangements are by the objects, i.e., natural processes. We are following with knowledge in accordance with its functions. The province of Sankhata Paramatta Dharma ending is not because it wants to be ended. Its province of the boundary coming to the end or expire. The knowledges discover Asankhata Paramatta Dharma are the path, the fruition and the reviewing knowledges respectively. It's not so difficult and not much about it. First, strip off the worldly concepts and combine the Sankhata Paramatta Dharma with knowledge. And then following to its ending and will discover the Asankhata Paramatta Dharma. Therefore you see the ultimate realities in twice. If seeing the Asankhata Paramatta Dharma, wrong views and doubt all fall away and greed leading to the plains of misery are gone. And will never be born into the 6 bad places, 4 plains of misery, born into a family with wrong views and a place the Buddha's teachings never reach. As soon as seeing the Asankhata Dharma and become a stream enterer. It's important how to look at these khandhas. Told the story of Ven. Ananda became a Sotapanna by Ven. Panna's teaching, SN.22.83 Anandasuttam, S.IE.105f. With clinging and craving, conceit and wrong views arise. Without clinging and craving, conceit and wrong views are falling away. The reason is they arise by clinging to one's own and others' khandhas. Smile and grimace come from clinging. 3 of the craving, conceit and wrong views are arising in turn. Like the simile of a mirror, looking at the khandha mirror me and him shadows are coming out from it. Then, Panna asked them, form is permanent or impermanent? If it's impermanent tanna, mana and ditthi not arise. Looking at with the ordinary worldling's eye and tanna, mana and ditthi arise. Looking with the eye of the disciple of a noble one it doesn't arise. In Ven. Panna's simile, khandha was like the mirror. Someone himself and others were like the shadows in the mirror. At first, you should have the intellectual knowledge and then do the practice. You have no progress without them.